All right, everybody. Audio's okay this time. I know we had a few hiccups the last couple times, but I'm willing to bet that you all can hear me right now. Am I right? You have 15 minutes? Almost. Almost 15 minutes, but not quite. As you know, if the teacher is 15 minutes late, you're allowed to leave, but sorry, now you're stuck with it. I see Mork hasn't died. Thanks a lot, Etams, for ruining my name forever. Appreciate it. Milo says he was getting a haircut. Yeah, that's what I was doing right before the stream started. There is sound. Yeah, shut up. There's sound. Am I muted? There's no way. You guys can hear me. You guys can hear me. I'm actually going into my OBS studio to double check, but you guys can definitely hear me. Not that you made me doubt anything, but you know. Phantom Greyfire says, hashtag bring back Wano Report, one last episode. If, yeah, we can do one last episode. We've discussed doing like another episode of the Wano Report. Maybe let's let Act 3 wrap, and then maybe we do that. Don't know. Isaac Z says, you lifting weights? Yes. Thank you, Isaac. Luis Vasquez says, hey, Mork, is Joy Boy Momo? There's some interesting options for Joy Boy that just opened up, right? Because I like that Oda's teasing the idea that it might not be Luffy. I don't get how it can be Momo, though, just because it depends, right? So they're talking about the Sovereigns. The Sovereigns will be born at some point, right? Like, so if the Sovereigns, right, we're talking about the fish, right? The Sea Kings. Sorry, not explaining that well. But my line of thought is basically the Sea Kings are talking about, our Sovereigns will be born in some time, right? So Shirahoshi had to wait a little bit. And then Momonosuke was already born at that time. So does that mean that Joy Boy is not one of the Sovereign? Like, there's different people that they're waiting for, so... But at the same time, the idea of bringing the dawn to the world, that is highly tied to the idea of Joy Boy. And Luffy is very specifically stressed multiple times throughout the series as being sort of the man who will bring the dawn of the world. So it's a little tricky. Jacob Harris says, I'm starting to doubt the whole 5-act structured thing. Do not doubt it, all right? Hold on to your doubts. File them away somewhere, all right? Don't think about them. We're getting 5 acts. J. Foles says, love you, Morge. Thank you, J. Fole. I appreciate you. That's what everybody wants to hear when they're told that they're loved, right? When you say, I love you, you want to hear back, I appreciate you. It's exactly what you wanted to hear. Bunfagam says, was Zoro's fight against King disappointing? I mean, I've talked about this before, but I think that I went back and reread the Mr. One fight, right? And then I read the King fight. So it goes 2 different ways in that basically, like, I think the Zoro versus King fight in isolation, if you just read it from start to finish as a fight, I think it's a good fight. I think it's a very good fight. I think in a vacuum, it's probably one of Zoro's top 3 fights, top 2 fights. I'd still put Zoro versus Mr. One up above it a little bit just because of the way that it was paced, drawn. It felt like Zoro versus King was kind of playing out the same beats of that fight very, very similarly. So it's kind of, the second version of that fight, right? I found Zoro versus Mr. One to be a bit more dramatic, a bit more compelling. We understood a bit more about Zoro, I felt like, from the end of that than Zoro versus King. But I thought, if you say Zoro versus King is your favorite fight, totally understand. I could easily see it being better than Zoro versus Kaku, right? I might put it above Zoro versus Kaku. So I say that in isolation. I think, like, if you just line up all of Zoro's fights and you're just reading them one after another, I would say Zoro versus King is top 2, right? At worst, top 3 or something like that, right? Some happily have it top 1. I totally get that. Where the word disappointing might come in. So there's isolation, what the fight is, versus the, like in a vacuum, what's the fight, versus what's the context of the fight. I think in the context of the fight, being that this was essentially the entire New World in the making, right? The entire New World has been built up to taking on a Yonko crew, right? Zoro versus King, like Zoro versus a Yonko first mate. I mean, just considering like the significant, like the weight of Zoro's fight, like what you would expect it to be, right? And I don't want to hear anything about, expectations shouldn't matter, blah, blah, blah. No, like if Zoro one-shotted Mr. One, you'd be like, that was a fucking, like, Well, it actually kind of did. But if Zoro just walked in and like decapitated Mr. One effortlessly at the start of the fight, you'd be like, oh, that was a fucking letdown considering this Baroque Works arc has been building up for so long and we've been getting excited and the author has been putting a lot of effort into building up the idea that this is a bigger conflict than ever before. So considering the Wano arc, the stake, like the hypothetical stakes and scope of the Wano arc, right? Like this is essentially all of the New World arcs have been building towards this specific conflict, right? This is the fight. Zoro has not gotten a serious battle, since literally Thriller Bark. Zoro versus Ryuma was his last serious battle. Like Zoro versus Monet, that's a walk in the park for him. Zoro versus Hyozo, Zoro versus Pika, like those weren't real fight. Like Zoro versus King, this was the battle that we've been waiting on for Zoro for a long, long, long time. So when you build up this long, and then the fight that you get is basically just about the same as Zoro versus Mr. One, then I would say in context, I personally consider Zoro versus King, if that's Zoro's final matchup for the arc, I would consider that disappointing. You know what I mean? So the context matters, right? The same way that like, you know, you have to understand like Zoro versus Mr. One, Zoro versus like Zoro, like pre-time skip, Zoro was getting good fights every other arc, right? Zoro versus Ohm, Zoro versus Mr. One, Zoro versus Kaku, Zoro versus Ryuma, right? Like, we talk about Zoro versus Mr. One being a really good fight, but Zoro was also getting serious fights like every other week, right? So again, the context being that, well, now we get to the New World and Zoro doesn't get a good fight for a long, long, long time because you're building and building and building and building to this huge main event, Strahd versus Yonko crew, right? And then finally you get one fight that is about as good as the pre-time skip fights that we were getting regularly, you know? So in that context, I would say it's disappointing. But in isolation, right? In isolation, if you don't count things like build up, context, etc., I would say it's, for me, it's close to as good as the Mr. One fight. Sam Fowler says, is it a possibility for Pudding to implant false memories into the Germa siblings in order to make them less like douches? I don't know if I would even like seeing that. Maybe that's possible. But I don't know if I would personally like seeing that considering, you know, like it's kind of just, that's essentially brainwashing them to be better people. Essentially brainwashing them to just be good, which I don't know if is what the series is going for. Ivan back from the card shop. If you believe the Strats will get 12 members, who do you think Blackbeard might get to match? That's too difficult to tell, because I think that with the way Oda's doing things, so right now, last we knew of, right? Like Blackbeard had 9 members. Now we know he has 10, right? But I think we're always roughly aware of Blackbeard having close to the same amount of crew members as Luffy does. So we know Blackbeard's got 9 right now. We know Luffy's 9, right? I think Oda's holding off on showing us just even the 10th character, because if Oda showed us the 10th character, then even that in itself for Blackbeard would be a sort of tip-off for people to start making theories about like, oh, you know, like for example, if Blackbeard's 10th crew member is a woman, right? That's immediately going to fuel the ideas that, okay, well then that means that the Strats are definitely getting another girl because, you know, Yamato carrot intensifies just because it's, you know, you would expect that sort of a matchup or something like that. You know what I mean? Like if the 10th crewmate is a mink, then that would fuel, you know, carrot theories and things like that. So I think that it's really, really hard to tell what crewmates Blackbeard will get, because I think Oda's deliberately keeping that in the, like, I think it'll be more so like, depending on who the Straw Hats sort of get, that's what we would kind of expect more matchups lining up across the board for the Blackbeard future members. Big the Boss says, Der Hero Morge, why you look a bit hench? I don't know what that means. Why you look a bit hench? I literally don't know what that means. Oh, wait, great question. Rumble Weeb says, could someone ask Morge when his why Luffy is going to lose again video is coming? I'll answer that for you, Rumble Weeb. Tomorrow. Watch out for tomorrow. Juan Pret says, not all the Strats may be combatants. I think against the Blackbeard Pirates, we would expect them to be all lined up. I think literally throughout the series, we've never had a time where every Straw Hat gets a fight. I think that's never happened in a single arc, where every Straw Hat gets a fight. Every Straw Hat gets a fight. Yeah, I don't think that's happened in an arc. Even if you go to Baroque Works, right? No, yeah, Baroque works. Everyone got a fight except Chopper and Usopp. They got a team fight. So I guess no arc where everyone got a 1v1. No arc where everyone got a 1v1. That's my correction. Babtron says the CP0 seem. Oh god, I have to read out fucking hashtag Bab thoughts. The CP0 seem like they're so out of their depth. It's so tricky because like a second ago, CP0 were taking out Apu and X Drake, so it was just like, oh fuck, CP0 are fucking amazing, right? And then a little while later, it's like, okay, well, one of them tied with Izzo or whatever, so now they suck. To me, CP0 is about where I kind of expect them to be, like, in a general, I don't think that they're all as strong as Calamities or whatever, right? I don't think that they're as strong as, like, a Yonko commander, but I think that, yeah, like, this seems about right, you know, like, they can take out a supernova or something like that individually. Oh, maybe because the lights are off. You want me to turn the lights on? Let me turn the lights on. Let me get some lights on. Wait, Bart here says, from Bunfagum, what is the secret behind Luffy's fruit? I don't know. I have no idea, Bunfagum. I'm one of those people that hope it's not actually a huge deal, whatever the deal is behind Luffy's fruit, because I prefer Luffy being... I don't like the idea of the Gomu Gomu no Mi actually being a secretly really powerful fruit all along. I like the idea that the Gomu Gomu no Mi is, like a fairly tame devil fruit as far as most things go, and Luffy's the one who's able to come up with a lot of creative ways to exploit it, right? Give me 1 second. Forgot to unmute my mic. That look a little nicer? Golden Row, what's up, man? Hey, Morge, hope you're doing well. Nice to see you too, man. I hope you're doing well as well. Yeah, I know I was actually muted that time. I already figured it out. Didn't need you guys. Mr. S says, hench is UK slang word for muscular. Oh, you're just saying that. You're just making that up to make me happy. But that won't make me happy. JP says, we still calling this guy Mork? No. No, we're not. We forgot about that. In fact, we all dropped that. We all got over that last stream. The pirate hero says, Mork, I can see you clear, now turn it back. LXN-NI says, bro changed like 5 skin tones turning the lights on. I believe OBS is racist. That's what I'll say. Roxas Vanitas 1 says, if Kaido and Big Mom are defeated but not killed, what happens to them? I doubt Impel Down could hold them, and you can't just let them go like Buggy. That's like the $1 million question. I have literally no idea how they deal with Kaido and Big Mom. I think Kaido might die, but I don't think that he'll die in battle. I've said this a few times, so I think assassination attempt or something like that, post defeat, right? Big Mom is a lot trickier. I like that one theory somebody said, a great theory that somebody said that Big Mom could, I hate that I say somebody because you know who you are, right? You know who you are. I shouted you out a few streams ago. I think I retweeted it or whatever, but like the theory that Big Mom, what's the theory? The Big Mom she can eat her own lifespan, right? Big Mom, gluttony is a big part of her character, right? So potentially in a life or death battle, right, she goes too far, just devouring more and more of her lifespan to win the fight till eventually she dies and kills herself, which is a great idea. Death of a glutton. She essentially gorges herself to death. Oops. Edwin Rodriguez says, hey, Morge, since you're already considered the villain of the community, I am not the villain of the community. I like to think of myself as the charming hero of the community. Might as well go all in and make a why Yamato won't join video. I should make a why Yamato won't join video. But come on, that's like something a hero would do, right? I think that's a very heroic thing. To let the people know that Yamato joining makes no fucking sense. So, yeah, I'll put that on. No, I think I actually have that on the list. But kind of got to know when's the best point to drop a video like that. Here's a tip as a YouTuber. YouTuber tip. If there's nothing being talked about relative to a certain character, right? Like, I think Yamato talk has generally died down a little bit because she hasn't been doing that much recently. If nobody's talking about a certain character, there's not a lot of reason to do a video on it. Like, if I did a video right now on, like, why Carrot won't join, nobody's really going to care because most people have moved on from that Carrot train. Yamato, I think people still would care, but I think even the hardcore Yamato for Nakama fans have quieted down a little recently as she has continued to not do anything. Cheese Mango says, Yo Morge, does Luffy trying to steal from the Skypians at the end of Skypia seem really out of character to you? It always threw me off, hashtag VOD crew. That's an interesting idea. How can you be hashtag VOD crew when you're literally right here donating? Don't think I can't see through your tricks. You're not part of the VOD crew. You're a stream crew person. Stream crew member. Luffy trying to steal from the Skypians at the end of Skypia seemed really out of character to me. Honestly, I never thought about it. I thought, like, it was one of the most harmless things Luffy could do, right? Because, okay, here's the thing. So, Luffy from the start of the arc, that was the most piratey arc, right? In that Luffy's like, you know what, we're going treasure hunting. We're going to go try and find this treasure, right? So, from the start of the arc, Luffy was already on his, like, we're going to take the gold from this place, right? He was already on that kick. So from the start of the arc, Luffy was treasure hunting. That was the first and probably only arc that Luffy was really interested in, like, let's get some gold. So they did, he and his crew did successfully find the gold city, all of that stuff. They found all the gold, all that stuff, right? I think that, in Luffy's mind, this was just concluding the treasure hunt, right? This was just concluding the treasure hunt. Like, we found the gold, let's steal some. And it's not like they even, like, tried to steal all of it. It's just like, we'll steal some. Sean Easton says, so if a conqueror being beaten means they lose their conqueror's haki, I don't even think it means they lose, like, let me clarify. That may be big enough of a nerf for Big Mom and Kaido to survive in a weakened state. I highly doubt that, like, it depends. So it depends how they lose, right? Like, Luffy has lost multiple times and he doesn't just lose his conqueror's haki. There's plenty of characters that lose battles but don't lose their conqueror's haki. God knows fucking Chinjiao should have lost his conqueror's haki many a decade ago, right? But he's still got it somehow. So I don't think that that's necessarily the case, but I think it might be the manner in which you're defeated. I think that the way that Big Mom was defeated just now definitely wouldn't do anything to her conqueror's haki, because as far as Big Mom was defeated, she was essentially defeated through kind of trickery and weird circumstances, right? If you're talking long term, then yeah. I could see that being a possibility. Both of them being beaten so bad that they lose their conqueror's haki. That would be interesting. Bunfagum says Yamato can join as Odin but learn to be herself. See, Yamato has literally not had a character arc yet, right? She's not undergone anything, right? So she's still literally at pretty much square one of where you would expect a character arc to go from. So to me, Yamato's fairly far off from joining. And if anything, the fact that she's already on board to join the crew suggests that it's likely that her character arc would head the other direction. Mr. Crescent says, even if the raid fails, do you think that this attempt could have been done better in some areas? In my opinion, besides some cool moments, felt like a lot of running around. Mr. Crescent, I will not speak on that until we see how everything plays out, I suppose. There are some things that seem a little, like, regardless of the raid failing or not failing or whatever, there's some things where it's like, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be something else or something got cut for time or something like that. So, like, I guess, I think Yamato's whole zigzag, essentially, like, starting with Momonosuke, right? Conversation with Momonosuke, I have to stop the bombs, etc. She leaves, goes up, zigzags through Onigashima, gets down to the armory, right? She does stop the yokai and freeze the bombs, but at the same time, that whole threat, if it hadn't existed, I think it wouldn't have really changed anything, because at the end of the day, Big Mom falls through the hole and takes most of the bombs with her. So, and Oda could have easily written it as, well, Big Mom just takes all the bombs instead of Yamato freezing some, Big Mom taking some. Like, the amount of bombs is arbitrary. You could just make that up. So I do question, like, I thought that she would do something to the yokai specifically, but the yokai just seems to have disappeared. But then again, that's why you have to wait and find out, because maybe there's still something more to come of that, and maybe, Kanjuro's yokai thing, it's not done yet. So, yeah, that's just a wait and see thing, right? There's other stuff like, okay, CP0 and Drake and Apu, and like why did Apu and Drake have a sort of like why was there a chapter of them potentially teaming up, and then them refusing to team up, and then them fighting CP0, and then Drake being defeated, but then Drake coming back lit. Like there's some stuff where it's like, were these scenes, what was the direction of this? Like where did we really get to that was different from if these scenes didn't happen? But again, have to wait, see, try and find out where these things go, right? Chinawala Bhatia says, remember when Carrot mattered? I still think Carrot's going to matter at some point. I don't think that Oda's just going to drop that character because he's still thinking about it, right? He tried, well, not tried, he did write in that scene with her in Paraspero, so he's still aware that there's something there with her, but just, I think he's dropped it for the moment. I think that she could be important again in the future. And Oda did have more Carrot Nami, Carrot crew interactions heading into the Onigashima battle, which is interesting. Tofi 2000 says, do you think One Piece will have a really big plot twist which will turn the story upside down? So this is the question I've been getting the last few weeks. I think besides the raid failing, which I've been through a few times, besides the raid failing, a really big plot twist that'll turn the story upside down. I think with everything we're heading towards with Joy Boy, right, Dawn of the World, Luffy's fruit, what all of this means, I think we could have some very, very huge revelations, particularly at the end of the Wano arc. I think Im alone has potential to, like, Im, I don't know how we're going to start saying it as a community. Im alone has the potential to really turn a lot of our understanding of the series upside down. So, we'll have to wait on him. What do I think of the oil theory? I have not seen the oil theory. I'm sorry about that, but I've not. Le Recto says, you think Zoro and Sanji could beat Big Mom together? It's so weird to say, because it's just like, Zoro and Sanji, like, the way they get written in their fights, like Zoro, he had to take a lot of damage, right? He had to take a lot of damage to... It's so weird to say, because it's like, I don't think even like Law and Kid in straight up circumstances could take down Big Mom. They beat her, we understand, specifically because of the circumstances, right? Specifically because they're in a floating island where there's, you can shoot her off of the battlefield and the bombs and everything like that. Like, it was a lot of things that essentially, like, very, very much so the environment played a big role in why she was defeated, right? Because at the end of the day, last we saw, Kid was attacking her with the electromagnetic gun, and she was tanking it pretty well. And as she was going down, we could tell that she had much more in the tank, right? She was ready to fight back, whereas Law and Kid very explicitly are done. Right? They're just done. So I don't think, like, it's hard to say because it's not even like Kid and Law beat Big Mom straight up, right? And Zoro and Sanji, the way that they fight is not like the way that Law and Kid fight. They're not Devil Fruit users, so they don't have as many tricks up their sleeve necessarily. They would have to fight Big Mom directly, right? Pure combat, straight up. So that being said, I'm not going to say that Zoro and Sanji could beat Big Mom necessarily. I think that they would have a harder time because of the matchup potentially against Big Mom, just because they're both just straight up physical fighters. So they would have to fight her like actually mano a mano. Hits Jason says, could you beat Syrup Village Usopp in a boxing match? Syrup Village Usopp in a boxing match. Syrup Village Usopp, as we understand, was really, really weak, right? Because we get to Alabasta and we find out he's saying stuff like, I can't even lift like 5 kilograms or something like that, right? So physically very weak, right? So in a boxing match, hypothetically, a lot of people could beat Syrup Village Usopp. But at the same time, Usopp has always had inhuman endurance and durability. Inhuman endurance and durability. So if we want to get down to the nitty gritty of like how much damage, like I don't think I could put out nearly enough damage to actually hurt Syrup Village Usopp, in a significant way. He's taken hits from Fishman. Kaio Guerra says, hi Morge, love the video about Luffy being the one who defeats Big Mom. Do you do your eyeliner or are they naturally that beautiful? I don't do eyeliner, I just have eyes that are shaded like that. But thank you, I appreciate it. Yamil Diaz says, do you think Kaido ordered Queen to make the Ice Oni virus to revive his dying species? Do I think Kaido ordered Queen to make the Ice Oni virus to revive his dying species? Do I think Kaido ordered Queen to make the ice Oni virus to revive his dying species? Wait, that's such a cool idea. But since it didn't work correctly, he went with the smile plan. That's such a cool idea. I really like that idea. I mean, because then that plays into certain other things like what is happening with the numbers, right? The experimentation that seems to have happened with the numbers, and Kaido clearly likes having the numbers around. I wonder, maybe Kaido coming from some sort of a dying species and him, like a lot of the experiments really playing into that sort of, what do you call? Remnants of what he's lost or whatever. Babtron says, could Usopp clash with CP0? They're near each other. Could Usopp clash with CP0? They're near each other. That would be really cool. I think that if Usopp gets a big moment against CP0, to be honest, if Usopp got a big moment against CP0, then I might be ready to say like Usopp's like a sort of one of the missing piece type things, and that like until Usopp gets a really big character moment, I'm not inclined to think that like. I mean, there's like also a million other factors, but like Usopp's a big factor. Like, there's several things that generally happen, right, in One Piece finales, and in a certain manner. And as long as I'm not seeing those things being written in that manner, I know I'm being very vague with that. I don't think that this is an actual One Piece arc finale. And Usopp is an example of that, right? So generally, Oda writes some sort of issue or like personal thing that Usopp's dealing with over the course of the arc, and then he does ultimately have to deal with that, right? So up till now, Usopp has not had to deal with anything this arc, right? Usopp has essentially been getting to chill throughout this entire arc. If Usopp gets a really big character moment, right, a really powerful character moment, such as having to go back, save Izzo or something along those lines, then I'd be like, fuck, is this actually being written like a normal climax? God Complex says, here's for having a chill stream for me to put on right after smoking a joint. Super relaxed right now. Thanks. No worries, God Complex. I'm glad you're enjoying. Halil says, what do you think of the theory that Urouge is the 10th Titanic captain? He doesn't really have a clear storyline and mentioned that Blackbeard was the key. I doubt that's the case because as we understand, Urouge recently... So it's a few things, right? So Urouge recently, if we backtrack his history, we saw him injured, right, in some way and recovering on an island in the sky where he saw Kaido, right? So that was last we saw Urouge, so he's not doing well. Then when we heard about him in Big Mom's force, Brule implied basically that Urouge was the most recent entrant into the forest, and that Urouge was somewhere, she said Urouge has probably wandered off somewhere to die from his wounds, right? So it sounds like it's very recent. You wouldn't say that about someone who came like a year and a half ago. Right? So it sounds like whatever Urouge did was very, very recent. So those two things line up, right? It sounds like Urouge very recently came into Big Mom's territory, got injured, went off somewhere to tend to his wounds and try and recover. That seems to be Sky Island, as Urouge says when he's on Sky Island, like, we'll safely recover our wounds from our wounds, etc. here. So that seems like that lines up. And to me, all of that indicates that Urouge would not be one of Blackbeard's 10 Titanic captains, just because the phrasing, it's not like, oh, the Blackbeard pirates invaded Big Mom's territory. Rather, it's just Urouge who invaded Big Mom's territory. So, Hakbak is correcting me saying, bro, Urouge is not Urouge, it's Urouge. No, come on. I think Urouge is correct. Urouge. Mauricio Altamirano says, Mihawk versus Straw Hats, who's winning? I mean, come on. I think the Straw Hats defeat Mihawk pretty handily at this point. That's essentially like saying Mihawk versus a Yonko and his entire crew. I think Mihawk gets fucked up. There's not a lot of characters in the series at this point that you could argue beat Luffy himself. So you give Luffy and his entire crew, it's just like, man, that's a rough matchup. Peleb Gozum says, Ayo More, do you think Gear 5th will be unleashed very soon? As Luffy mentioned that he will have Gear 4th one last go, so Gear 5th maybe. So you'll get my full thoughts on, I guess, how the fight, what happens with the fight Drusser says, Morge, just accept that you have bad pronunciation. I don't think I have bad pronunciation. I think everybody else has bad pronunciation. And I personally think that some things just make more sense the way that I say it. You know? Like I say zone devil fruits. That makes sense because Zoan, O-A-N, that pronunciation is fucking own, right? L-O-A-N, loan. We already have stuff in the language precedent. I don't know what the word for this is, right? But we have other things in our language that seem to reflect the idea that my pronunciations are correct. And everybody else's are just somehow wrong. But as I was saying, with what was the question before this? Fuck. What was the question before this? Look what you've done to me, Drusser. Attacking my pronunciations like that. Now I've lost the question. Oh, the fight. All right. Yeah, you'll get my thoughts on the fight tomorrow, right? So I personally am of the opinion that like Luffy would show another gear over the course of defeating Kaido. I'm just of the opinion that it doesn't happen right now. Rather, it happens at a future point in this arc. I personally think it'll be... I could see it being Awakening. I'm leaning towards a gear just because it makes more sense to me for a few reasons, but I could easily see it being Awakening. I'm not like hard stuck on, oh, Luffy will definitely get gear 5th to defeat Kaido versus, okay, Luffy will get Awakening to defeat Kaido. First name, last name says, how do you think Pudding's Awakening would work? How do I think Pudding's Awakening would work? Dude, it's so hard because there's, like, ever since Awakening was introduced, it's raised questions about what so many Devil Fruits Awakenings would look like, right? Like, Pudding's, sure, that's an example, but, like, what would Luno's look like? What would, like, Khalifa's look like? Like, what would Mr. Two's look like? There's so many different things where, just the idea of, like, a Devil Fruit getting an upgraded version really, 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 like, throws things up in the air, you know, in terms of, like, what could potentially happen. So what do I think Pudding's Awakening would work? Like, maybe something like she can, on a whim, you know, some crazy... on a whim, just, like, change everybody around her's memories without having to touch them or something like that. That would be pretty crazy. Or, like, swap everybody's memories or something like that. Maybe. But that sounds so broken, it's hard for me to even imagine that. I don't know what Sugar's Awakening would look like, right? What's Perona's Awakening look like? There's so many Devil Fruits where it's like, okay, if that had an upgraded version, then everyone's fucked. Hits Jason says... Who's the most genuinely evil character in the story? So this question comes up a few times. This one, I am of the opinion, and I've said this before, I think it's Enel. I think Enel is the most evil character because Enel genuinely, like, Enel's the character that does the most evil, has done the most evil, right? And cares, like, he cares the least by far, and he has no redeeming qualities, right? Doflamingo, you could argue some, like, his redeeming qualities are obviously severely balanced out, but, like, he does seem to care about certain other people to a degree. We don't actually know the full extent, right? Like, how much would he sacrifice for his family? How much does he actually care about his family? But he clearly does care about his family and the closer members of his family to some degree, right? And how much is up to some debate, right? NL very literally views, like, other people, right, human lives, as very much so, like, he is God and they're all ants. That's how he actually legitimately views everybody else. So for him, he has no qualms about killing one person, 100 people, 1,000 people, a whole island. He literally committed genocide for his home island, right? His home island, he wiped it off the map. Who does that, like, to your own fucking hometown? As soon as he got his powers, he just wiped out his own hometown because he could. He wanted to wipe out Skypiea because he could. He's, I think, the closest thing you would say to, like, a genuinely evil character, in my opinion. Drusser says, your bad pronunciation is one of your most consistent traits for the entirety of your channel's history. Yeah, probably. Probably. That's what people have been telling me. I think that, again, the idea of what is good or bad pronunciation, it's up in the air. Hard to decide one way or another. Atris says, I've been thinking that Luffy actually, who decides what's good pronunciation or bad pronunciation? At the end of the day, it's all subjective. Atris says, I've been thinking that Luffy actually has the size fruit, lining up with the Joy Boy / Giant theory. The Joy Boy / Giant theory, though, the thing is that the hat is, like, way too small for an actual giant. You know what I mean? Like the hat is very, very small compared to an actual giant's hat. It's gonna be big for Luffy, right? But small for Joy Boy. Small for like an actual like oars-sized creature. Like it's not even really a hat at that point. It's more like, you know, like I don't know. Oars could probably hold that hat like easily in the palm of his. He could probably put it on his finger. I think that the giant fruit theory, I personally don't like it. This is one of those things where I don't have a strong reason against it, right? I could see it. We get some foreshadowing, arguably, with, you know, Luffy being depicted as a giant at the end of Skypiea after he defeats God, right? So that's potential foreshadowing for the end of the series where Luffy as a giant would defeat God, things like that. Now, the tricky thing, though, is that with the giant fruit theory, I don't like what it would mean for Luffy, because Luffy is a character, again, always the underdog. Oda likes really portraying Luffy as this tiny little guy fighting up against the really big guy, right? David versus Goliath. It makes his victories and just like the framing of his battles feel that much more powerful. Seeing Luffy as this gigantic figure, you know, and it would just make him so ridiculously strong, right? Like imagine Luffy with a gigantic body, right? Like he would be so much infinitely stronger that like if you took Luffy with his current strength and then scaled him up like 100 times the size or 1,000 times the size, like he could defeat Kaido with his pinky finger or something like that, right? I think it would just put Luffy at such a ridiculous point that I don't know if it would be enjoyable for me personally, reading him fighting like that. Because again, I have nothing against like characters getting really strong. I want Luffy to be the strongest character by the end of the series personally. I think that he's actually on track to becoming that. But you know, the idea of Luffy just turning into this, like Luffy as strong as he is right now, turning into like a literal giant and just being like way ahead of everybody else. Like, I don't know. Babtron says, Luffy's Gear Third always made me think one of his future forms would make him a full-on giant. Hashtag Babthoughts. Babthoughts, god damn it. We already covered this, Babtron. I literally just covered this. I don't need to hear Babthoughts. Bunfagum says, Kaido is awakened as his fruit is the koi fruit. Oh, that's an interesting idea, that the awakening for the koi fruit would be the actual dragon fruit. I also don't think that that's necessarily going to be the case, just because I think it would be really disappointing if Kaido did not actually have like an awakened zone form. Treybird said, oh shoot. Fuck. Wait, we're a little behind. Okay, Treybird says, when Gear 4th expires and Luffy loses Haki for 10 or 15 minutes, Kaido will clean him up and Luffy knows it. Final Gear 4th means win or get bodied. Well, you already know I think he gets bodied, so there's nothing else for me to say. I don't think it's going to be a case where Kaido like outlasts Gear 4th and then beats him up. I think Kaido is going to break out his awakening, etc., and then beat Luffy up. Freeloader178 says, has Luffy ever said, this is my final anything? Surely that's a hint he's going to lose. Actually, Luffy has said that. He said that, I think, against Lucci. So yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a hint that he's going to lose. But you'll get more context around it in tomorrow's video. Watch out for tomorrow's video. Big DeBoss says, dare hero again, Morge. Oh, you just make me sound racist. I fall to my knees and beg you to please do the Bollywood dance. I already did the Bollywood dance. You'll enjoy it. Hashtag Henchiewood Morgie Lovey Boy Kiss Kiss. I hated this comment. I hated reading it from start to finish. God damn it. Why did I have to read this comment? Mr. Crescent says, do you think Luffy will have a character conflict with Nami? He's had one with all of the East Blue 5 except her. Usopp and Zoro, Ish in Water 7, and Sanji in Whole Cake. I think it would be really cool to see Luffy have a sort of conflict with Nami, because yeah, Luffy and Nami, Nami has really been, I guess, a character that just, after Arlong Park, after her origin arc, has just always been on Luffy's side. Like, she's the one, it's funny because Luffy and Nami, it makes sense in the sense that, like, so think about the conflicts, right? You got Zoro and Luffy, right, having a conflict in Water 7, Luffy and Usopp having a conflict in Water 7, things like that. Like, those are characters that famously get along really well with Luffy, right? Like, they're always on the same page as Luffy. Usopp appealing more to Luffy's fun-loving, childish side. Zoro, the more, serious, battle-focused side, right? More focusing on their ambitions, etc. So they're usually all on the same wavelength as Luffy. Nami is the character that's always on the opposite wavelength with Luffy. So, like, Luffy actually does get into conflicts with Nami the most out of the crew. day to day by far. Like the most squabbles and disagreements Luffy has in the crew, even just stuff like what's the next island we should go to, it's Luffy and Nami. But that's why it's so important that like at the end of the day, like Nami always does have Luffy's back, and she always does what Luffy says, and she's always in tune with what Luffy really wants at the end of the day, right? So I think that for that reason, it's possible Luffy doesn't ever have a true conflict with Nami, just because, Luffy and Nami, I think the fun of their dynamic is that they fight so much on a day-to-day basis, but then once Nami realizes something is actually important or actually meaningful for Luffy, she's the one who understands him the most in some ways, right? I mean, you can go back to Skypiea, where Luffy and Nami did have different ideas of like how they should approach the finale of the arc. Luffy wanted to go up again, ring the bell, right, fight Enel. Nami's like, this isn't smart, etc. But as soon as she realized that this was important to Luffy, she's like, okay, we're going to do it. Same with going to Skypiea, right? Nami puts up a big fuss about like, I'm not going, this is crazy, we're just going to die, etc. But once Luffy makes it clear that this is important to him, then all of her complaints, like, she puts them behind her, and she just, she finds them a way to get to Skypiea. So, I think it would be cool to see a conflict between Luffy and Nami, but I don't know if their character dynamic will ever be written in that way to have a serious conflict like that. Sean Easton says, so what do you think of anime and Asian media, webtoon and manga, overtaking Hollywood and comics? Which other countries' media will become popular? So, I mean, I can't speak to, like, actual statistics or anything like that for this sort of thing, right? I have no idea, like, obviously, like, in our little sphere, our echo, like, from our perception, yeah, anime and manga is becoming really mainstream and everybody's trying it or whatever, right? But at the same time, how much of that is just because that's just like the type of social media that I interact with, the type of like even like it's hard to say because like even with my group of friends from my hometown, right? Like even with that group of friends who are, I guess, more traditionally white people, like like they're not really like they still view anime with the same stigma as most people, right? I have one really good friend, like a best friend among them, who I did successfully get into watching stuff, and then he actually got ahead of me and started watching more anime than me and stuff like that. But in general, no, like I don't think anime and manga is like overtaking Hollywood in terms of popularity in the West. Okay, I do think it will eventually get closer to just being like very common, like very common mainstream, culture, right? I think, but I don't think it's there yet. I think, honestly, the COVID pandemic probably helped in a lot of ways. You probably got a lot of people trying anime who weren't trying it before. But I don't think, I think it's a little overblown how mainstream that has actually become. I think that that's still something that a lot of people think if they're in a bit of a, like a certain social circle or certain groups or seeing certain forums or what your Twitter feed looks like is obviously, or whatever your YouTube feed looks like, right? So, I don't know which other countries' media will become more popular either beyond that. Maybe Korea, I think Korean, Korean media, I think that's already like even like Korean TV, obviously K-pop, things like that are already happening. Korean film, like that's really taking off. Even Squid Game, obviously, Marcus Taylor says, will Hawkins' power expand? Why did I yell that? Sorry about that, guys. Hey, time out. Nobody has complimented me on how big the chat is. Nobody has complimented me on how big the chat is. Are you guys not happy about this? You want it to go back to the normal size? Let's get some hype and some excitement about how big this chat is. Anyway, Marcus Taylor says, will Hawkins' power expanding card ever play a part, or is it a forgotten plot point? It is not a forgotten plot point, because there's more to Wano, because we still have some time to go. In fact, I can point to Hawkins as being one of the reasons I believe this, as Hawkins started the arc by saying that we're going to be in Wano for about a month, and that the storyline is going to go for about a month. At least that's what's implied by his initial prediction that he gives to Luffy. Guys, compliment the chat box. All right, that's very important to me. I would really appreciate it if you complimented this chat box. I put a lot of time and effort into giving you a chat box that's very visible. So I would just really appreciate if you guys could just say some kind words about it, Umo Focacina says, chat is so big. That's all I wanted to hear. Thanks, guys. All right, like the stream. While we're on a roll of doing things that I would like people to do, like the stream. That's way more important. Forget the chat box. Enough about the chat box. I'm tired of hearing about the chat box. That's all you guys want to talk about. Zealot says, any theory for Big Mom killing Kaido? Can't imagine you can just knock out a Yonko, and she seems like she had a plan to betray him anyways. I doubt Big Mom kills Kaido. That would be pretty wild. I don't think that Big Mom's going to kill Kaido. I do think that she has a plan to betray him, as she strongly implied that to Perospero. But killing Kaido straight up, Big Mom being the one to do it, I don't think that that's necessarily the way that this would play out, in my opinion. Young Usopp says, can you check out my chapter 1040 analysis song? What? I don't know what that... I don't know who you are. I don't know what that is. You have a YouTube channel? Is it called Young Usopp? I have no way of finding this. I don't know what that means. But I now know that a 1040 analysis song exists. That's interesting. Maybe I'll check that out at some point. Luz Vasquez says, if the elders were talking about Luffy's Devil Fruit being special, then I'm 100% Enel has a mythical Zoan Devil Fruit Raijin. That explains the drums on his back. So you don't think that anybody has the actual Gorogoro? Like, isn't it confirmed that Enel has the Gorogoro no Mi? I don't think Enel has a mythical Zoan. I think the Raijin or the drums and everything like that is just to like a reference, sort of, right? Like to visually resemble, a god of thunder. Anime Dimension says P1. Is this part 1 of a super? What does P1 mean? Yes, it is part 1 of a super. All right. Anime Dimension. Let's all listen closely. Part 1. 5 elders are talking about Luffy's Devil Fruit. And the reason why they didn't go to Luffy before is they mentioned the Devil Fruit didn't awaken in past. Means there may be at least 1 to 2 users and before Wano. Part 2, or rather before Luffy's Conquerors awaken, they didn't believe that Luffy will become so strong, and that's the reason why they're going after Luffy, even neglecting Robin for now. It should be so important. So you're basically saying that it's related to, like, Luffy's progression, right? So other people probably have had the Gomu Gomu no Mi in the past, but, like, it's always been, like, a flat, like, not a big deal. But Luffy is quickly starting to shape up to be someone who's actually a very dangerous potential user of the fruit, and therefore, if he ever actually, like, he's already so strong as is without even tapping into the fruit's potential, so if he tapped into the fruit's potential, then he would just be, broke as shit. That's an interesting idea. That is an interesting idea, but at the same time, it's like, Luffy was a big, like, Luffy's been on such a ridiculously fast track as is, right? I mean, the Impel Down incident, the Ennis Lobby incident before that, like, he was the fastest rising star of the supernova before this, right? First to, like, 400 million. Then he gets to 1.5. So he's already being called the Emperor of the Sea, even before this arc starts. It's just a little surprising to me. But again, that Im did have his eye on Luffy's wanted poster at that point. So maybe it is kind of lining up. So maybe when Luffy got the, people started calling him an Emperor of the Sea, Fifth Emperor, etc. That was when it was like, okay, this is real. This kid is not just, a flash in the pan. This kid is actually rising up the ranks to the very top of the pirate world. Very soon, potentially going to be one of the strongest characters in the world. So that's when maybe Im has got his eye on him and taking a look at the, wanted poster, considering different options. Who should I eliminate, etc. And then I guess what we're seeing now is potentially like the full realization that, yeah, Luffy really is that guy. He's able to fight toe-to-toe with Kaido, the freaking strongest creature alive, supposedly. And so now it's like, fuck, we might have to really try and take care of this kid while we still can. Otherwise, it might already be too late because he's already kind of gone nuts. That's an interesting idea. Again, I'm never going to love the idea that the Gomu Gomu no Mi is really special, but this thing that you mentioned, the reasoning that you mentioned, does provide like a good possibility for why it would not have come up before that Luffy's a threat that absolutely needs to be eliminated in the past. Just because maybe past Gomu Gomu no Mi users have never gotten to a certain level where they would be a real threat with the fruit. D. Wiley says, you are awesome. Thank you, I appreciate it. I can't wait to see the raid failing. Agreed to play out so you can finally be vindicated. I agree. Thank you, D. Wiley. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Dayton Todos says Luffy's awakening will be disposition of rubber, aka ability to bounce back from anything. This also fits with Sun Wukong's ability to be immortal. That's interesting. Disposition of rubber, you're kind of mixing the ideas of Haki and Devil Fruit Awakening there. Ability to bounce back from anything. I guess that's a really, really powerful ability to have if Luffy could unlock something like that. And it fits Sun Wukong's ability to be immortal. interesting. Like, there's so many good ideas going around right now of like what the full extent of Luffy's abilities and awakening, etc., could be. I'm definitely open to a lot of them. I think we're past that. Like, it seems very likely at this point that the Gum Gum fruit is going to be, a big deal. So we're just at a point where we're like, okay, so how big of a deal is it? How much is it symbolic versus actually just being a really strong ability? If it's a strong ability, how can it be a really strong ability that still fits with Luffy's fighting style, etc.? Easy Man says, a spinoff where everyone is kids in class would be funny. I think Oda's, that's, I've got some TV commercials that you can check out. Those Hungry Days ones, right? But like a full-on story with that would be great. Hold on, I got a few things to catch up on. I think we're good. Raphael Cunton, great name, says, in chapter 1034, we see Kaido's awakened form when he uses Ragnar. No, I know what you're talking about. That's not Kaido's awakened form. That's just a gag face. That's not an awakened form. I doubt that Oda would drop Kaido's awakened form with like just one single one-off gag panel. Andrew says, do you think Oda is being rushed to wrap up Wano? The last few chapters from the Monster Trio fighting the Commander/Kazunbo plot feels rushed to me. No, you know my opinion on Wano. It's possible that Oda is feeling rushed to pick up the pace for certain things for this act, but I don't think that like Wano. It's like I think that Oda. Here's the thing. I think that Oda writes around chapter numbers quite a bit, right? So, we all know this to a degree, right? But I think Oda just sets certain things as benchmarks. Like the story should be at this point by chapter 1000. The story should be at this point by chapter 1050, right? So I don't think Oda is being rushed by anyone. Rather, he has set the standards himself, the goals himself of where he wants to be kind of. Like, you can even look at how things kind of play out, right? Like, Whole Cake Island ends at about chapter 900. Dressrosa ends at about chapter 800. Dressrosa starts at about chapter 700, right? Like, the time skip is about chapter 600, right? So, like, to me, you can kind of graph out and be like, okay, Oda does seem to clearly want to hit a certain point by a certain chapter very frequently. And, like, I don't think that there's any editor or any outside force that's rushing him. If Oda is aiming to end certain, I think 1050 might be a solid milestone that we could be looking at. Maybe Oda's looking to end the act by 1050. So I don't think Oda's being made to be rushed or anything like that, but rather, he has his larger plot, outline or whatever, right? And he has his estimates for how long certain things will take. And then maybe as he's actually writing and drawing and he's realizing that certain things will take more pages, then he's having to chop little bits and pieces, right? But I think he's trying to stick to his own schedule rather than anybody else's schedule. Raphael Kuntin says, chapter 1037, my bad, law. 1037, I don't even know, what was the other part of it? Yeah, but you know what I mean. I already know what you mean. I know the panel you're talking about. It's the extended fight between Luffy and Kaido before Zunisha shows up. Young Usopp says, yes, sir, my channel is Young Usopp. All right, Young Usopp, I'm not going to promise I'm going to check out this 1040 song. I'm not going to promise that, but I might. On a whim, I might, but no promises. Andrew says, forgot to mention Big Mom's fight also felt rushed. I will not speak on that either, neither here nor there. Nothing but bad can happen. Well, no, I personally think that Big Mom's fight, because it was not necessarily, again, I believe that she's coming back this arc. So in that sense, I think that was a perfectly fine way to remove her. Good showcase of Kid and Law's abilities, etc. If that was like the climactic big defeat of a Yonko, I would also believe that. The same opinion you have. Atris says, if Joy Boy had the giant fruit, he could just scale to be the right size as the hat. That is true. That is true. And then maybe he takes the hat off every time he fights to get to max size. Plus, we only see the hat next to Im. Im could be huge. I don't think Im's huge because we saw him in the same room as the Gorosei, and we saw him like wandering around the that garden type room. I think we did get a bit of a reference to him and other characters, so I don't think that's necessarily the case. If the hat doesn't belong to Joy Boy, then whose is it? There aren't many other options. I have a theory on the hat that you can check out. It's one of my older videos. Yeah, you can. It's on the ancient weapons, basically. So check that out when you get a chance. I think it's a good theory. Gunther says, Law's statement in 1041 seems pretty ominous rather than hopeful. Sounds like the setup for Luffy to lose. Look, man, to me, a lot of things point towards Luffy losing. That's all I can say. Anything that you guys see, great. I'm all for it. Appreciate any extra input. Evil says, Ayo. What's up, Evil? FVAI says, explain why Zoro is killing Kaido to ignorance, JK. I don't want to explain I don't even believe in Zoro killing Kaido necessarily. Anuj Agrawal says, BM/P trust/betray convo is raid fail evidence now. Look, man, there's so many things that I believe are raid fail evidence. It's like a million small things throughout Wano and then a lot of big story things. But I'm probably going to save most of my major thoughts till everything wraps so I can share holistically, give my full perspective, etc. Right? I don't want to keep doing... I can't do another final why the raid fail will fail video, right? I promised myself when I did the last one that I'm not going to do another one. But there's a video coming out tomorrow specifically about the fight, which is a different topic. Right? Oh, shoot. Hold on. Loading. 1 second. 1 second. Oh, is Randy here? What's up, Randy? Hold on. Let me catch up. Big the Boss. I don't want to read your next comment. Let's see what it is. D Hero Morji. Hope you ready for tight cuddles on my soft bed after stream. I know you will enjoy it like last times. Love, love, kiss, kiss. Yeah, this is my new least favorite commenter. God Complex says, when's the relationship advice with Morge segment? Hey, I can barely get enough viewers for One Piece, let alone other topics. Jake Brown says, you see that Big Mom looks like Hole was in Mogura Port. Big Mom looks like Hole was in Mogura Port? Oh, so that does go towards the idea that some people have, which is that the Big Mom pirates are coming in through the, through that port, and they're going to catch Big Mom as she falls in through there. Which I would love to see, because then we get the Big Mom pirates back in action. Young Dai Lee says, Morge, I missed you. Smoker will be stride. Agreed. I'm with you. Don't worry. Agreed. Randy Troy is here. He says, hashtag shovel time. Don't know what that means. Chin, Chrissy's stream is in 90 minutes. Randy came here just to promote his wife's stream. Thanks, Randy. I didn't realize that you were here under false pretenses. Don't worry. My stream will wrap by then. Keenan says, if the raid fails, I think it'll make me appreciate Kanjuro a bit more, since I don't think the Beast Pirates would have won without his espionage. They're barely going to win as is if they do. I appreciate Kanjuro's role in this. I am with you, Keenan. I really hope that the raid fails partly just because there's so many characters that I think we can get a lot more out of. Kanjuro's role would be a lot bigger deal if the alliance is defeated here. It'd be very interesting to see future conflicts with Kanjuro. And I think Momonosuke versus Kanjuro could be a really, really interesting matchup to potentially be seeing in the future. Shoot, stream is running a little bit slow. Let's see. Le Guerriere Ivan Invenku says, Luffy is currently with an ancient weapon while Garp is taking one home. Shira, by deduction, Garp has an ancient weapon. Is that how that works? They each have everyone in the Monkey D family has an ancient weapon? We sure the world government doesn't have an ancient weapon? Keenan says, BTW, I don't have any solid proof, only my personal opinion, but if you really examine Imu's silhouette in every panel, it appears I'm 99% sure that Imu's a woman. You know, it's One Piece. I just don't imagine the final potential boss of the series being a woman. That's all I really got. But I don't think the silhouette disproves or proves or disproves if Im is a guy or a girl. Aslan says, when Luffy loses, we need 3 pages of Kaido just smashing him and trashing him to hammer in that he lost. Agreed, would be great. I would love to see Kaido hitting Luffy down into the live floor. Also, why does Dragon need Luffy for his plan? Does Dragon need Luffy for his plan? I don't know if that was ever established. Mr. Crescent says, still think Luffy fighting Jack. No, I was wrong on that. I'm pretty sure there's no way that happens at this point, unless Jack is like, gets advanced Conqueror's Haki or something like that. Van Lien, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, I think I'm caught up. All right, cool. Let's see. What have I missed besides that? Payback from Morge, says Chino. What do you mean payback from Morge? AJK talking about something very interesting, which is that Wano is composed of different islands put together, probably put together by the original ores with the big skull on Onigashima. That's why the islands have a different climate each. So the thing, okay, so there's some very interesting ideas that I've seen going around about how closely Wano is tied to the Ancient Kingdom, with some people actually arguing that it is the Ancient Kingdom, straight up, and that some of that is reflected in like some of the Kazuki history, certain things lining up. Kazuki, we know, made the poneglyphs, right? Connection to ores, the fact that like Wano seems to be constructed in some way, that possibly the borders were raised to protect the Ancient Kingdom after it fell. There's a lot of interesting ideas out there. Not my own, but I suggest definitely checking out like Wano is the Ancient Kingdom theories, because there's some really, really, really interesting stuff now. Kevon CA says Onigashima should land in the hole made by law. No, because then it never gets in front of the flower capital, right? I assume that Onigashima always has to get in front of the, like, above the flower capital at a certain point. Like, if Onigashima doesn't get above the flower capital, then it's kind of geez, the villagers never realize that the battle's going on. Chino Wong says Mojitora hasn't noticed evil yet. Yes, I did. I said hi to evil. What are you talking about? I said hi to evil. Kaido would be Morge's favorite villain if he did. I mean, yeah, I think Kaido would be everyone's favorite villain at that point. Red X says when the raid fails, Kaido needs to execute the scabbards right in front of the people in the flower capital. This way he would be symbolically crushing their dreams and their spirits, which is his role. I'm with you in the general role of Kaido, but I don't know if Oda would ever have Kaido like do something that brutal, like execute all of the scabbards in front of the flower capital. I think that's not. I literally can't imagine that happening in One Piece, in my opinion. Atris says, can't wait for Dragon's years of planning leading to Luffy coming in last minute and taking all the credit. That'd be hilarious, and I do think that is essentially what's going to happen. Can't not happen at this point, right? JD Junior 375 says, will there be a Berserk analysis ever? If I ever branch off hard from One Piece, I definitely want, like, Berserk is one of the series I want to do the most, by far. Like, easily one of the series I want to do the most. And I think I will branch off from One Piece at some point soon. But just gotta wait a little bit. Sean Easton says, can't wait for Kaido's 7-page Muda. I don't know if that's exactly how it's gonna go, but that'd be cool. Branching off for One Piece has to wait till I basically get the time to work on other series, basically. At the moment, I'm swamped as is, so keeping up the One Piece content is, that takes up enough of my time along with everything else. Chinho Wong says, Morge, when is the next analysis video coming out? The next one I really want to do is on Wano itself, but certain things need to happen first, right? Like, regardless of what you think, right? Even if the raid fails, doesn't fail, or whatever, I'm going to do some videos on Wano. But no matter what, after the act ends, which the act should end, no matter what happens with Wano in general, the act should end somewhat soon. And after that, I do want to do an analysis. Le Guerriere Ivan Q says, we need the blood of one of the 20 kingdoms at Laugh-Tale. Well, Randy's in chat, right? Randy's of the opinion that Vivi's going to be back. Randy, you got any thoughts? Is Randy still here? Unknown. Keenan says, I got here a bit late, so you might have already talked about it. I know we didn't get much, but thoughts on the beginnings of Kaido's backstory. It's interesting that Big Mom said, I didn't check the official for it yet, but Big Mom, at least in the TCB scans, she implied that Kaido didn't talk much. I wonder if that indicates that Kaido's like there's two options here, right? Either Kaido is actually like a shy boy at one point, like a shy kid, or Kaido is just like, not talkative because he's just like, a tough, unfriendly kid, right? Tough, unfriendly, maybe rebellious type teen kid. But I like the idea that, aside of Kaido, we might not have expected that he wasn't too talkative earlier on. Whereas nowadays, he likes to talk a lot. He talks a lot of shit. He's got a lot to say, right? Our first interactions that we got of Kaido and Big Mom over the phone, right? The Denden Mushi. Kaido was very open to talking to her right there, and he had a lot of shit to say to her. Keenan says, I might be a bit late. No, we got you, Keenan. Sanad Yunus says, important question, I swear. What are you planning for dinner tomorrow night? That is an important question because it just reminded me I need to order my DoorDash for today. Tomorrow, I'm also getting, today I'm getting sweet green. Tomorrow I'm also getting sweet green. I eat certain things on certain days of the week, right? So Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays I eat sweet green. And then other days I eat like whatever I want. It's just this weird thing that I've convinced myself is healthy. So that's the plan. Yeah, Randy agrees with that. Vivi joining. The pirate here says, how is Zoro's too many captains sink ship speech going to pay off? Is it just his conquerors, or do you think he will really lead people this arc? The thing about him releasing his conquerors is that it wasn't associated with any actual leadership moment. So I definitely think that the things Oda literally started Zoro at the end of Zo with saying I'm going to round up samurai from Wano. Then he has that quote about too many captains sink the ship. Plus this arc is about him unveiling his conquerors haki. Plus he's got Shimotsuki origins and stuff like that. I definitely think that there's more in store for Zoro, and I definitely think that it's leadership related. Van Lian says, hey Morge, do you think Luffy has the mythical zone Monkey King? Since the Monkey King is mischievous, the fruit tricks the world into thinking it's rubber. World government hides this fact too. Thought awakening. I hope Luffy doesn't have the Monkey King fruit just because I think it'd be a little bit on the... I like the idea that Luffy parallels Sun Wukong in many ways, right? And a lot of his story is referencing Sun Wukong. Even something small like the moment where Luffy gets to Ace's execution platform, right? And Sengoku knocks him down off the platform after transforming into a giant Buddha, right? That is a reference to Sun Wukong's story where I think Buddha knocked him back down to earth or something like that after Sun Wukong did some shit. I don't know the full detail. I need to refresh my memory on it, basically. But there's already lots of interesting details, and Oda draws from that story quite a bit. So I like the idea that he's drawing from that story rather than straight up being Luffy's fruit is literally the Monkey King fruit. Actually, though, this is something somebody mentioned in another stream, which was Hanuman, right? Hanuman, that's an Indian god, right? He's a Hindu god. And Hanuman, he is a monkey that can change shape and grow to great sizes. So if Luffy had a fruit like that, I wonder if Oda would really go into Hindu mythology to pull out a specific god like Hanuman. But that would be really interesting to see if it's the Hanuman fruit. Xiang Li says, given this recent chapter, how do you think we will have proper world government antagonists in the new world, given we are heading to the end of the story? Yeah, I definitely think we'll have a proper world government antagonist. I mean, I think that they're going to be the main baddies at the end of the whole arc. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, one of Jesus' disciples betrayed him. Which of the Strahds do you believe would betray Luffy? I was wondering, how much this would come up once I talked about it in my last video. I was wondering, how many people would bring up okay, a Strahd's going to betray Luffy now. I don't know if Oda's going to go that far that he's going to have a Straw Hat betray Luffy, because it's just it's just so crazy, right? How do you, you can't even imagine a Straw Hat betraying Luffy unless they're heavily coerced. It's just so difficult to imagine. So difficult to imagine. It's just, who would even do it? It doesn't make sense. Now, there is something that I saw somebody say that was really interesting, which is that we still don't know how the whole Jinbei situation resolved from Whole Cake Island. Maybe Jinbei is hiding something, so not necessarily betraying Luffy, but maybe there's something there. We still don't know how the Sun Pirates escaped. As far as we can tell, Germa didn't get off scot-free. So as far as we don't know what happened to the rest of the Sun Pirates. We don't know what's up with Aladdin. We don't know any of that. So we have to wait and see. Hakbak says, will Kiku restore her arm or become Shanks 2.0? I don't think she gets her arm back, in my opinion. I don't think come on. If we can't even take away Kiku's arm, then she doesn't have to die, but come on, at least her arm. She can lose an arm. She can lose an arm, right? She can lose an arm. Gentle Savage says, do you think Zunisha could be based on Horton the elephant from the Dr. Zeus story, as the relationship that Horton has with the Who's seems to mirror? Do you think Zunisha could be based on Horton the elephant from the Dr. Seuss story? Sorry, I had to read that twice. Not trying to laugh at the idea that the relationship that Horton has with the Who's seems to mirror Zunisha's relationship with the Minx. Okay, you brought it home at the end. I was a little lost there at just like, fuck, just because he's a fucking elephant, you think he's from Dr. Seuss? But you showed me, since by the end, that is an interesting idea. Like, it's an elephant that's carrying a small world with him, and an entire species is resting with him, like, on, well, not like Horton was carrying it on a flower or whatever, but, like, I get it. I get the idea. I think it might be an unintentional similarity, just because the elephant more closely parallels the idea of like the idea that the world is carried on the back of elephants, right? And that's an idea that's been around in mythology for a long time. But the Horton reference is it's something I literally would never have thought of. So that's a good idea. Yeah. God Complex says, how do I impress a girl on a date? My opinion, I mean, I think this is just true. Being able to make the other person laugh is really important. And I think it's like honestly bad if you can't make her laugh, because then that signals probably sort of lack of chemistry there. So it should be organic, right? So it's not like, it's not like you should be having to force that. But I think, being able to make her laugh is really important. And then besides that, honestly, just knowing when to listen and knowing when to talk about yourself. I think those two things are important, because, you don't want to be like talking about yourself the entire time, but at the same time, you need to be like making sure that you're really paying attention to the other person, trying to learn about her. Gentle Savage says, also the trees on Zoe look similar to trees depicted in Dr. Seuss landscapes, and the trees on Zoe look similar to trees depicted in Dr. Seuss landscapes. Dude, maybe you're right, and the way that Momo communicates with Zunisha is similar to Horton communicating with the Who's. Dude, you might be more right. Maybe Oda never learned about the world being carried on the back of an elephant. Maybe he drew it 100% entirely from Dr. Seuss. That's a possibility. I don't think that's the case, but that's actually much closer to it than... it's not as much of a joke as I initially thought. Sorry, I just... Horton hears a Who being the inspiration for all of Zoe and the Minx is, it weirdly fits, but at the same time, it's just funny to me. Joey Jojo, sorry, I just scrolled past you. Joey Jojo says the ceiling of Oni is progressively getting bigger cracks with each chapter. The Alliance are also gathering on the live floor to escape the fire. I really, really, really think that fine, if you don't believe Kaido beats Luffy, whatever, but I definitely think that the ceiling at least has to open up so that the battle of Kaido and Luffy is exposed in some way to, like, that barrier has to be crossed. The battle between Kaido and Luffy basically spilling into the live floor so that, it's not just this weird isolated incident, right? The only time that's really happened in One Piece were, two times, right? Luffy versus Katakuri and Luffy versus Crocodile. And Luffy versus Katakuri was very much like purely a personal thing, right? There was no like country at stake or anything like that. It was purely Luffy personally. Like he came back into the mirror world because it was like, I want to get to a point where I surpass you, future sight, etc., right? This is not that case. This is a big war that's being fought, right? Like anytime there's an event like this, like whatever, Dressrosa, any slobby, when there's many things at stake, etc., you usually see Luffy with other people. Alabasta was the exception because the idea is that the Straw Hats in that arc were the hidden heroes of the arc, right? They were fighting the battle that nobody knew about. And Luffy did ultimately expose Crocodile at the end of that fight, so he did punch him out from below, up above, right? So I would expect something similar here, where like no matter what, or not similar here, you get what I'm saying, like I would expect something similar to other storylines, right? Like Arlong Park, Dressrosa, Skypiea, things like that, where like Luffy's fighting for a great many people. You need some degree of an audience there, right? And the people that you've been fighting with, fighting for, etc., they need to witness that fight. So that should make sense even if you believe Luffy wins here. But if Luffy loses, which I also believe, then it's very, very, very important that Luffy comes down through the Onigashima skull, because the Alliance actually needs to see the loss, because that's what Kaido seemed to foreshadow back in chapter, I think, 10,013, 1013, when he says that, oh, this defeat is meaningless because nobody's going to believe that that you're actually down and out. So what Kaido seemed to imply there is that the meaningful defeat would be doing it in front of everybody. So I think that that's strongly foreshadowed. Atris says, there's already was a betrayal with Nami in Arlong Park, and I can't imagine Luffy at a Last Supper saying scenario saying one of you will betray me. Yeah, I mean, you could say definitely certain things like Strats have betrayed Luffy at points. Like, Robin betrayed them at a certain point, right? Like, in theory. Like, Robin pinned all of Enies Lobby on them. Or, sorry, not Enies Lobby. Like, Iceberg's assassination, essentially. She let them take the heat for that, right? Certain things have happened, but it just depends on if you think, like, if someone who's, like, actually ingratiated into the crew at a certain point is actually ever going to betray Luffy. Randy Troy says, should be more worried about her impressing you. Yeah, if you go in with the right mentality, the really confident mentality, peak confidence mentality, then I think Randy's got it right. Hackback says, if the raid fails, change your name to Mr. Chad. I'll see what I can do. Kenneth Davey says, do you still think the raid will fail? Yes. Yes, because I shared the same opinion with you, but the way it's going, and plus the movie coming out, I don't think so anymore. I'm always surprised by that. Because I'm curious what trigger would cause someone to shift over, right? Because, like, I've seen people be like, it's the most random stuff. Because, like, I'll see people, like, all of the Toby Ropo go down, right? And then people are still like, makes sense, we're heading toward, like, false sense of victory, but the raid will fail, right? But then something will happen, like Sanji will beat Queen, and then people will be like, oh, now I don't believe the raid's going to fail anymore. It's like, wait, why did this make you think that the raid, like, why were these things fine, but then this made you change your mind? Or they're fine with Sanji beating Queen, and they're like, yeah, it still seems like the raid's going to fail, but then Zoro beats King, and they're like, oh, no, now I don't think the raid's going to fail. I think I saw the same thing with, like, Kid and Law versus Big Mom. Even though Kid and Law, the way they beat Big Mom, to me, the fact that seemed like by far the most temporary and, like, least climactic, least definitive out of any of the defeats that we've had so far. So for some people, that was the thing that swung them over to be like, oh, now the raid's not going to fail. So to me, that's surprising because, like, most of the things that are happening right now are what you would expect, right? Onigashima, if we assume that it would, like, the raid failing, etc., the flow that it would go would be something along the lines of Onigashima coming down, a sort of false sense of victory among the Alliance until Kaido defeats Luffy, which then triggers a turning of the tables, right? Potential Zoan awakenings from a lot of the Beast Pirates, etc. Alliance is defeated, Onigashima comes down. None of those things really change or are affected by any of the events that have happened recently. So I'm just always surprised when somebody's like, oh, you know what? This chapter, this moment made me think that the raid's not going to fail. Because so far everything's going basically how you would expect it to. If, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing, like, what's the difference between Sanji being defeating Queen versus then Zoro defeating King versus then, like, Kid and Law taking out Big Mom? Like, nothing's really changing with the flow that would hypothetically happen. Like, these are things that you would expect to happen if we're heading towards a false sense of victory, followed by Kaido defeating Luffy, etc., etc. Ivan back from the card shop says, Mr. Morks, oh god, could we do Mork at least? Mr. Mork says, if Big Mom does die, who gets her devil fruit? I think Nami, so she can keep Zeus, and it fits her moveset really well. Nami having a broke devil fruit, like, that would be pretty insane. I don't know if Nami ever gets, like, a power-up that crazy, because the power-up that Nami has at the moment is already pretty nuts, right? God Complex says, Chad as fuck answer, Morge. Thanks. Well done. You too, Randy. Yep. Manmadetu now 25. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I hope I got it close. Thanks, I appreciate it. Oh, no, you got it right the next time. Man-made return. That man-made return? No. Man-made tuna. Oh, man-made tuna 25 says, do you think there will be another time skip, Mr. Morge? I mean, like, maybe an epilogue time skip, but I don't think a time skip in the scope of the main story, in my opinion. I don't think a time skip in the scope of the main story. Babtron says, Shanks very hashtag sussy after this chapter, hashtag Bab thoughts. All right, what's your guys' opinion on the Shanks' evil thing? Because I don't believe it. I don't believe it one bit. But it does seem a little more possible now that Shanks did go to the Gorosei to talk about Luffy. And it just does not cast Shanks in a very good light. at this point, right? It does seem like Shanks might have gone to talk about Luffy. Generic YouTube username says, in one vid you said there were probably 300 chapters or 5 years left of One Piece. I don't think I ever said 5 years left of One Piece because that math doesn't add up. But probably 300 chapters left. Do you still think so? I can't imagine it ending before another 400 to 500. I still think that One Piece ends probably around chapter 1300. That seems to make sense to me. I imagine we might be finding out what the One Piece is, in the next 150 or so chapters, and I imagine a final war following that. King Alucard, thanks, I appreciate it. Kenneth Davey says, I feel like the accelerated pace of things shifted my thinking, but I wouldn't be mad if it fails. Okay, so it's a general thing like accelerated pace of things. Hakbach, thanks, appreciate it. Shanks is evil. Shanks is not evil 100%. I don't buy it, but I do think Oda is trying to trick us. Yeah, Oda might be trying to trick us. He might be up to his tricks. He might be up to his tricky tricks. He might be like, these kids like their tricks. And, yeah, I definitely think that Oda might be on his trying to mess with us sort of a game. Because, like, I think when Shanks went to the Gorosei, people thought Luffy might be the pirate, but, like, in a more positive way, like, oh, Shanks is something interesting to share about Luffy or something like that. Most people seem to think it was Blackbeard or Kaido because Kaido's relevant right now, right? Some people even thought Kid, but that was back when people had different expectations for Kid, right? But Luffy was not exactly the pick in that light, like, oh, Shanks is trying to say something evil for Luffy. Although maybe that is when the evil Shanks theory became popular, if I remember, because Shanks did go to see... I might have my timelines a little mixed up. I think Evil Shanks may have really popped up around then or gotten some more steam around then, but now it really has some more steam. Mr. Mork, Miss Super Chat from Crow Stray got $2. Do you think Mihawk can cut through lightning? Yes, I do think Mihawk can cut through lightning, because if you can cut through fire, right, then why can't you cut through like Zoro can cut through fire at this point. He can cut through magma, which he cut through with like King's giant magma attack. Yeah, I don't see why Zoro can't cut through lightning, because the idea is essentially the same each time, right? You're not actually physically making contact with fire or magma. The Haki is essentially forming a sort of barrier to be able to cut through that. So, makes sense. I don't think that there's no reason Mihawk and Zoro shouldn't be able to cut lightning, in my opinion. Mr. S says, Morge, I think that Luffy has already awakened, but he doesn't know it. He can elastify the atmosphere directly around him as his awakening. That's how he can bounce his punches in the air in Gear 4th. No, I just don't think that that's the case. Like, I think it's more so just, like, the sheer force of his springs, like he can, like, using his muscles and stuff, he can make he can make his body contract and explode, like, pretty, like, with so much force that he just springs around. I don't think he's actually rubberifying the atmosphere, in my opinion. Mr. Crescent says, it is never explained when they say color up when referring to Haki, or do you have any thoughts? This is one of those things that I'm like, I'm not Japanese, so I don't really know. Maybe they use phrases like color of this in a different way, right? It's a little confusing to me because, we have the terms like terms like armament Haki, observation Haki, conqueror's Haki. Those terms exist. But then we also have color of X, color of Y, etc. Right? So, I'm not sure. Like, it's not, maybe those things mean the same thing, or maybe it's just different phrases for the same thing. But I don't know why color of is a thing. Keenan, thanks a lot. Makes no sense for me to consider for Shanks to be outright evil, considering he gave Luffy the hat because Luffy reminded him of Roger. Unless you think Roger was evil, which I guess is possible, I don't see it. Yeah, Shanks being evil, it's just like too much. It changes too much in the story, and it kind of like sours too many moments that are important if they're done straight. You know what I mean? Like, the hat, Shanks in the hat, Shanks reporting to Rayleigh that he met a kid that reminded him of Roger, Shanks stopping the war and thinking about Luffy, Shanks like waiting for Luffy. Like, there's so many things that it's better if it's done in the pure straight way, basically. Like playing the trope straight rather than this twist that Shanks was evil all along. Because I think it takes away more than you gain, in my opinion. Gentle Savage says, maybe Oda has taken inspiration from the Book of Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, it says that giants are the children of fallen angels, demons. Maybe that's why ancient giants resemble demons. That's a really interesting idea. I mean, there's so many things that Oda might be doing a soft reference to rather than like hardcore incorporating it into the lore. But that is a really interesting idea. I had no idea about that. I'm part of Kaido's flashback that I'm most excited for is the idea of just finding out what the Onis are about. John Ross says Kaido smashes Luffy through the dome, destroying one of his eyes. One sec. The Straw Hats, Nine Shadows fight Kaido and defend Luffy. Zoro makes a final cut on Kaido. Luffy awakens and finishes him. I would be 100% cool with that. I'd be 100% cool with something like that. I would love to see something like that. Like, as long as it's not something really, really like straightforward, like Luffy just beats Kaido. You know? Some final major setback that creates some final great drama for the arc. 100% good with that. So I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. I'd be perfectly happy being wrong about the raid if we got something like that. That'd be great. Dexto TV says more, just Sanji done for the arc. I don't think done for the arc. I don't think any of the Straw Hats are done for the arc. In my opinion. Also, the eye thing, by the way, there's a great theory that someone shared with me. They sent me like a Reddit post of an eye theory. There's a really strong theory out there about why Luffy might lose his eye to Kaido. It's a really good theory. King Alucard says, if Luffy doesn't finish Kaido and CP0 comes to kill Luffy, do you think Kaido will fight them out of respect for Luffy and his joy for their battle? Maybe. Like, I don't think Kaido fucks with CP0 in general. Yeah, I could definitely see Kaido doing something like that just because we know what Kaido did to the old hag, right? Obviously, this wouldn't be the same because this wouldn't be CP0 interfering with the fight, but rather trying to finish Luffy off afterwards. But Kaido might just off them just because he views that as too disrespectful. Generic YouTube username says, which Straw Hat gets an eye patch? We know Oda is saving it. I vote Usopp because the big three already have a scar, hair covering, or scar underneath the eye. Yeah, I'm actually on board with, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm on board with the idea that it is Luffy. There's a like I was not even I wasn't sold on the like Kaido takes Luffy's eye theory for a long time just because I was like that's a little extreme. I can't like imagine. And we know that Kaido has been talking about the light in Luffy's eyes. We know even going back to the Katakuri battle, right? So the previous arc in the same saga, you had Katakuri talking about the light never going out in Luffy's eyes. So there is setup around the idea that like that was not there before, not before this saga, of like this added focus on the light in Luffy's eyes and how it doesn't seem to go out. So obviously Kaido, the character that's been set up as this guy that breaks people's spirits, I see it as a potential route if you were to defeat Luffy again. And I wasn't solely convinced even just on that, but there is a Reddit post there that has compiled a really interesting amount of evidence for that theory. I think it's possible. The Pirateer says, if the raid fails, I think it would be cool for Sanji to finally have a Mr. Prince moment again if he makes it so the Alliance can escape. I would love that too. I don't know if it would be necessarily to make the Alliance escape, but I would love to see Sanji have a Mr. Prince theory, or mixing up theory with a moment again. I think that would be really cool to see. Anime Dimension says, P1. All right, Anime Dimension always posts his questions in multiple parts. So get ready. We haven't even gotten, I don't even see part 2 loaded yet. I'll get to you when I see part 2 loaded. Mahami01 says, the word shoku in Japanese names for all haki is written with the kanji for color. It's a translation thing. That's why sometimes it's color. Yeah, that's what I meant when I was like, okay, this seems like it might just be a Japanese thing that I don't really fully understand. So you can get multiple, I guess you can kind of, it's like multiple uses of the same thing, or it's interchangeable, or it's essentially, it literally means color, or it's written the same way as color or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. That's the answer. Mami01 gave you guys the answer. Anime Dimension says, part 1, when Luffy first learns Haki in Time Skip, the first thing he does, infuse air into Haki-coated body like Gear 4th. Now he learns Conqueror's Haki, so probably new gear. That is an interesting idea. Yeah, that is true. Like, Gear 4th not just being like, a new form, but it really is the form that abused Haki the most, right? So like up till then, Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd, he would add Haki to things. But Gear 4th, at least the way Doflamingo described it, it was a unique use of armament Haki and like somehow made his body retain rubber properties while also having like hard Haki properties essentially, right? Like it really, like it's not like his Haki improves in that form, but rather like because he's using it with like inflated and compressed muscles or whatever, it just makes it a lot more effective in that form. So I think it'd be really cool, yeah, if Gear 5th, like if getting Advanced Conqueror's Haki coincided with Luffy getting Gear 5th. Jordan Taylor says, thoughts on Kaido one-shotting Lucci if CP0 interrupts the battle as a way to show how far Luffy has grown. Kaido one-shotting Lucci. I just don't know if Oda would ever disrespect a villain like Lucci like that. You know what I mean? Because look at how gently Oda treated Crocodile, essentially, throughout Marineford, right? Like, Oda could have easily had Crocodile just go up against, like, I don't know, a Kainu or something and then just die, right? Just get put in his place. He could have had, Crocodile tried to take on Whitebeard, right? Oda could have had Whitebeard right in that spot, just like one shot, humiliate, knock Crocodile into the sea or whatever, like he was, slapping a fly. But instead, Oda had Luffy jump in, stop Crocodile himself, etc., right? So I think Oda did really, really like to he treated Crocodile with kid gloves. Not that Crocodile wasn't really cool in that arc, right? But I think Oda went out of his way to treat Crocodile with kid gloves, right? When Crocodile confronted Mihawk, Oda could have had Mihawk just like fucking chop off Crocodile's his one good arm or something like that for good. But he didn't, right? So I think Lucci's probably being treated much in the same way, right? With Lucci being kind of like it's almost disrespectful, it feels, to what Lucci represented in the series at one point, to have like Kaido just humiliate Lucci in a way. Same way I think that's not going to happen to Katakuri ever. I think Katakuri could lose, or we could see Lucci lose to someone, or Crocodile lose to someone, but I don't think it would ever be something really like disrespectful or just being used to hype up another opponent. Like just to give them like a really cool moment. Hawkbox says, you heard the theory about the One Piece being sake. It would make sense why Roger and his crew cried and laughed because they shared companionship. It better be some fucking magical sake, because I don't think that would be particularly satisfying at the end of everything, especially compared to like other One Piece theories that are out there, such as the one that I personally subscribe to, the one that's been around for a while, which is the destruction of the Red Line. Like that's a much more powerful One Piece story theory that ties together way more plot threads and long-running ideas and pieces of lore, and thematically, it's by far like the strongest One Piece theory that I've seen. Young Usopp says, I believe the voice of all things is a power unique to those of the D clan, or individuals that have family who are part of the ancient kingdom. You're probably right. John Ross says, another reason I like the Kaido versus Strides thing is that it gives Zoro a moment to step up and act as a vice captain. Yes, and again, lots of similarities to, Thriller Bark, right? Even Enies Lobby in many ways, both arcs where it was very heavily... lots of emphasis on Zoro basically playing this sort of role as Luffy's right hand, the vice captain, etc. Not to mention, this is a Zoro-centric arc to a degree. It's not saying it's a Zoro-centric arc is a stretch. It's not like that much, but Zoro is clearly of highlighted importance in this arc. And he hasn't had much character stuff for him so far, aside from the power-up. Dom says, Izzo dropped a CP0 in a potential 2v1. When X Drake and Apu couldn't. Also watch Film Z, Lork. I'll watch Film Z next break week. How about that? I'll watch Film Z next break week. As long as you guys remind me. If you guys forget to remind me, it's not my fault. You guys forgot to remind me. He dropped a CP0 in a potential 2v1. Yeah, I mean, I guess Izzo's stronger than we gave him credit for. That's all I can say. Izzo's stronger than we gave him credit for. Doesn't make X Drake or Apu look that good, but at the same time, we can be like, okay, Izzo's just strong. I think that's cool. Croc disrespects his Randy. I don't think I said anything disrespectful to Crocodile. I just don't think. I think Mihawk or Whitebeard could have Croco Goat. I agree. I think Mihawk or Whitebeard could have kind of humiliated him if they wanted to. Crocodile is still, to this date, my favorite One Piece villain. Taptio Treviso says, I wonder why does Big Mom say she becomes King of the Sea, but the title of Pirate King wasn't created till decades later? I mean, like, Rox also wanted something long. He wanted something even grander. He wanted to be King of the World. I suppose these are all similar ideas. But the idea of being the king of something, like ruling the seas, ruling the world, that's not going to be like I don't think that would ever be like a new thing like invented by Roger, right? Like that's just a natural desire that I'm sure many powerful characters in the past have wanted. Um, it's just that she didn't have the word for Pirate King at that point, right? Pirate King is essentially what came to represent that idea of King of the Seas. And Roger was the first person that, like, I guess they started saying, like, yeah, if there's a King of the Seas, it's that guy. We call him the King of the Pirates. AGMC says One Piece. I agree. Let's talk about that. Claude Brazan says, where's Crocodile Buddy now? I don't know. We don't know. I like to think that Crocodile's a big player in the underworld at this point, and we might see more of him now that Doflamingo is out. Owen Jones says, who's the better villain, Spamdom or Orochi? I think Spandam, I mean, like, they're both, like, the same type of villain. Like, the difference, in my opinion, like, that's an interesting question. Difference, in my opinion, this is one of those things that I'll definitely give, like, some pause and be like, okay, Spandam I got to hear with voice acting and everything like that, so he stands out to me, like, a little bit more, right? But with Spandam, I think the difference, the reason I felt more hate towards Spandam, like, and I feel like Orochi is less interesting or effective to me in that same role as Spandam, for me, is simply because Spandam actually had a significant amount of power, right? Orochi had power, but it really was never, like, he never actually really did. He kind of just thought he did, and he kind of, like, he did have Yasue killed, which was a sad moment for sure. He did have Yasue killed. He did infuriate some of the main characters like that, but like Spandam really, 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 like he did so many shitty things and like antagonized the main characters and particularly Robin so much. Like he like mentally tortured her, right? He really, 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 really mentally bullied her, right? So getting that single interaction over and over and over again and like seeing the power he had, like he ordered the Buster Call on everybody and everything like that, like that was really, really frustrating and it made you angry, right? The amount he like, it was a sort of the personal dynamic that came out between him and Robin, right? And how much like he was personally able to torture her and like that really, really like kind of made him like get under your skin in a way that Orochi, I think like Orochi's like a nasty figure, right? He's like a bad dude, obviously. It's just that like I think that there's never really a point like if we got to see, I don't know, like Orochi had Zoro captive and gets to keep taunting Zoro and like belittling Zoro and like doing some shit to Zoro or something like that, or humiliating Zoro in some way. That's what really builds, because it's like, man, this character that's weak but has so much power and is able to taunt that over this other character that we care about. That's what really, really gets you, you know, that's what really, really makes you really hate that character. You know what I mean? Orochi I dislike, obviously, and we know what he did with the smiles, everything like that. So there is some of that. Obviously, it's just I think that the more personal dynamic that we had with Orochi, Spandam over like a I guess a more focused section of time, just getting to see him flaunt his power as CP9's head and just abuse the shit out of it in a very personal way with a lot of characters. I think that was a little different. And with the Frankie as well, right? Same with Frankie as well, especially in the flashback and everything like that. So I think it was just a little bit different with Spandam. But I could understand people also feeling a certain way about Orochi. John Ross says, Arthur's recent videos 100% sold me on it being sake. I mean, if it's sake, I have not seen Arthur's videos, so I can't speak on it. But I know Arthur does he's a very thorough researcher. So if he's got stuff on sake, then I'll probably watch it at some point. The Pirate Hero says, do you have a favorite story decision Oda made? A favorite story decision Oda made? A favorite story? That's a great question. Probably killing Ace, right? I think killing Ace was really, 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 really important for the story. Probably killing Ace is my favorite story decision Oda ever made. I think beyond that, let's say that's a given, right? Let's say that's a given. For a while, it was Big Mom going to Wano because I felt like that tied together the story very elegantly in terms of what Oda was setting up. And I'd had that theory for a long time that Oda's setting up for Big Mom and Kaido to both come to Wano and to both be a dual final boss in Wano, to both be taken down there. And to me, everything pointed to that, so I was very happy that that did come together because that seemed what the entire narrative was structuring towards, like a really epic setup like that. But maybe that was a little more personal. So let me think of something from before. Favorite story decision from pre-time skip might be that's not Ace dying might be like I can't say something really broad, right? Like Robin, like what Oda, the whole thing Oda decided to do with Robin's character. Let's just go with Ace. Let's just go with Ace. How about that? Groovy Zeno says, oh fuck. One sec. Groovy Zeno says CP0 will distract Luffy right before he defeats Kaido. CP0 will distract Luffy right before he defeats Kaido. Like Odin versus Kaido. Onigashima crashes right after this to end the act, which will then lead to a final battle in front of the Flower Capital. I just don't know what that does necessarily, because then it's like Luffy already has the win, but it's just prolonged because of a distraction. Whereas I don't think that that's like, for the main character, I don't think that that's particularly satisfying, right? Because it already should mean so much that the character is about to get the win and has earned that win. But then it's just taken away by a technicality, so then you got to do it again. I think that that's not that impactful. It doesn't really make the main character fall short in any way, because it's like an outside circumstance. Ominous Chris says, what if Zunisha teams up with Luffy to fight Kaido? He coats her trunk and conquers Haki. I don't like that, in my opinion. We don't even know if something like that is a use of Conqueror's Haki. But that would ultimately just be like Zunisha beating Kaido, which I think, that was cool to see once with Jack, but I don't think that that's something that, like, we really, really want to see happen for, like, Wano, which is an arc that everybody's been fighting for, like, working towards it for so long. Bill says, love watching the VODs while high. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for helping me keep my passion for One Piece alive through the breaks and general wait time. Thank you. It's going to be a treat seeing my super chat on the VOD tomorrow. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy your high. Keenan says, that's what I'm talking about, Bill. You know the vibes. Keenan's definitely high right now. Keenan, that's why you end up donating so much. You're definitely high each time. You just don't think about it. You don't give a fuck. ZKK is now Zunisha kills Kaido? I mean, yeah, it's a possibility. I don't think Zunisha is killing Kaido, in my opinion. Joey Jojo says, in a previous stream, you said you liked the colored chapters because of the translation. So how do you feel now that they changed the first 390? What? No. What? I literally have to check this right now. There's no way. They did not change the original. What? No. That's not funny. That's actually not funny. I think on the link that I have, they probably haven't changed it. Yeah, the link that I have, it's still the same. Yeah. If you're looking at Manga C, that's not the site that I have. So I think we're all good. We're all good. Don't scare me like that. That's not funny. That's not funny. Here, let me paste the link that I've got. It's just a random chapter that I pulled. So here we go. No, we're good. Don't let these guys scare you. All right? That's the link that I use. Let me pin this for the people. Shoot, what did I just do? Why can't I pin this? You guys need this pinned. I'm trying to fight against the stream's lag just to pin this comment. I'm doing it for you guys. Also, I guess you could try Manga Dex. I know Manga Dex also has the colored. Jesus Christ, this is taking so long to load. Pin? Hello? Pin. All right. There we go. Yeah, Curtis Jackson said heart attack. You guys don't understand. Like, not as a joke, it actually really, 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 really would be very, 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 very sad for me if they fucking changed the colored translations to that garbage ass early Viz translations. Like I would absolutely hate that. Absolutely would hate that. Getting to read the early colored One Piece chapters is in color is a real, real joy. It was a fake scare. It wasn't even a real scare. And I went to all this effort to show you guys the golden link. They actually changed it on Manga, see though? Okay. So not a fake scare. I don't appreciate fake scares like that. Christian McCurdy says technology, low diffs, and a storyboard. Yeah. There's no point in my life. Here's the fucked up part about technology. So if you're bad at technology, you're bad with using technology right now, right? Like at this point in my life, I'm not good with technology, right? In general. It's just going to get worse exponentially. Because it's not like technology is going to slow down. In a few years, I'll have no idea how to use the internet whatsoever. You think the streams are bad now? God damn, imagine a few years. In a few years, the mic will be staticky, screen will be black, you won't be able to see anything. The chat box will be minuscule, absolutely tiny. You'll be able to see one word at a time. And then you guys will miss the days back, back when I was at least working with this sort of a setup. But yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Technology just gets further and further away from you. Does not get easier. Dom says, what's your favorite power system in manga? Favorite power system in manga? Supposed to say something really classy, like fucking Hunter x Hunter or something, right? Supposed to, right? Here's a shocker. Favorite power system in manga? Bleach. And I actually didn't even like anything besides the, I say Bleach purely because I liked the Zanpakuto system. I like the Shikai Bankai system. I think Bankai is still one of the coolest sounding words for the transfer. Like, it just carries so much weight when characters use that. So, I'm a big fan of that. I also think, what's the word? I just really liked it, it's very simple, it's nothing complicated or whatever, but I just liked it. I like looking forward to seeing what a character's Bankai was. And you know what's fucked up? We didn't even see a lot of them, which is hilarious, which is just like, goddamn, like that's just like one of the few, like, with Bleach, at least how I felt in the final arc, it was literally just like, I personally did not care for the story that much in the final arc. I did not care for the story. I did not care for the villain. I did not care for villains. I did not care for the conflict, etc. I literally just wanted I wanted to see every character show their Bankai. Like that's all I wasn't that much to ask for. I was just like, can we see the Bankais of these characters, right? And we got like some of them. I was actually mind blown. I was like, this was the only thing that I asked to be delivered on. We never saw Aizen's fucking Bankai. I was like, how simple, just show us that. Why can't we see that? Why do we have to see him in his chair again? Although it was cool to see him in his chair again, it's just like, it's not even that what I'm demanding is so simple. I'm not asking for like any beautiful, heart-wrenching storytelling or something like that. I'm just show me their Bankais. That's all I want to see. You know what? I'm dropping that. Bleach is no longer my favorite power system in manga because it pissed me off. Jungle Boy, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, no eyes in Bankai, Curtis Jackson. I feel you. I'm right there with you. Not stands, says Bweezy Bird. Stands are really cool. But I can't be like, it's my favorite power system because I think stands are perfect for a series where it's just like going to be back to back fights because it's literally perfect for a series like that, right? Like JoJo's is just at least earlier parts, right? Not talking 7 or 8, which have more storytelling in them, but earlier parts which are just like fight. Each episode, close to every new episode, is a new fight, right? Stands are perfect for that because of the great variety, different setups, etc., right? Like, great, great, great for maximum variety, right? You never know what you're getting with a stand battle. However, I do personally find, because it's a personal preference type thing. So like, I like the idea that like stands are all like, it's hard to explain. Like stands are all like, it's purely like different situations, different circumstances. Like any stand could hypothetically beat any stand in the right circumstances. Kind of like, there's not really that much up or down in terms of like obviously some stands are more openly dangerous and openly powerful than others, right? But I like the idea that like in Bleach, like Shikai, Bankai, like some characters were stronger, a lot stronger, etc. You know, there's more of a scale to it, and I do enjoy the scale aspect, right? Like I really look forward to Aizen's Bankai because I was sure that it would be like way, way, way cooler than pretty much every other Bankai that we've seen, right? Like Yamato's Bankai was crazy because you know that this is the most powerful Bankai that we're seeing or whatever, right? Stuff like that. Keenan says, long but from AJK. Theory for Wano's borders opening and what it means. Maybe read for later. Thank you. I will check that out. Before I read, I don't know if it's going to be saying like, you know, like Wano returning to sea level. Because I have heard that before and I'm kind of on board with that. So I haven't read that yet, but I'll save that for later. I have it open in another tab. Jungle Boy, thanks again. Appreciate it. Keenan says, also, yes, I do be on Cloud9 during these streams. Oh, fuck, your comment's not loading. I do be on Cloud9 during these streams. Shout out to Bill for riding the wave with me. I know you're listening. How many people are watching High right now? Let's do a quick poll. How many people are watching High? How many of you are trying the devil's cabbage right now? Not watching this stream like a bunch of good kids. Pretty straightforward yes, no. Don't try to say yes just to sound cool. I want some honest answers here. Remember, doing drugs isn't cool. So you don't want to say yes just to sound cool. Did this poll not post? Hello? Let me pin this instead. Oh, I don't have to pin the poll. I forgot about that. No is 52%? There's no way. There's no way that many of you are high. What is wrong with you guys? You think I show up to the streams high? No. Come in, do my work. So you're telling me that 40% of you are high right now. 41% of you are high right now. There's no way. There's no way. That's like 400 something people watching who are high right now. That's not that. I don't believe it. I don't believe that. Okay, it's gone to 40, just 40, but still unreasonably high. I expected a 90-10 split. Jesus Christ. All right. Grizzly Adams just reread Marineford. Whitebeard tilting the ocean is absolutely insane. Yeah, people forget the shit Whitebeard was doing back then. I feel like Advanced Conquerors is going to have some crazy stuff in store. Otherwise, I have a hard time imagining Roger rivaling Whitebeard just by punching hard. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Roger has more to show if Advanced Conquerors Haki. Potentially in a flashback. I think Shanks could maybe showcase some stuff, you know? Alright, we're going to end this poll. Bunch of goddamn delinquents in this stream. Mr. Crescent says, can it be assumed that the big players at Marineford were using armament, but because we were seeing it through Luffy's perspective, they weren't using it? Yeah, I would think so. I mean, the admirals literally put their hands together and created a barrier, which is 100% the first level of advanced armament Haki that Hyogoro talked about. Ibrahim Mokero says, what do you think of Zoan Awakenings being increased stats rather than a transformation? People use the Impel Warden who were awakened as examples. I think it's definitely increased stats, but I think that comes with a transformation, you know? Like, the Zoans in Impel Down, just looking at their eyes and such, like, they did look... Well, particularly the Minotaurus. They did look different. John Ross says Carrot uses Electro to defibrillate Zoro. I mean, that would be cool to see. Carrot using Electro to defibrillate Zoro. Good use of Electro. Sorry, I do have to order some food right now before it gets too late. BRB need to crash the site. Jesus. Yeah, it looks like a lot of you guys are pretty high. Man. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that so many anime fans were just gonna be you know. Sorry, I'm trying to order food so that I can eat my dinner. Mark Morris says 40% of me is high. Interesting. I didn't know you could play it out like that. Brandon King says Imu is a tontara and the hat is normal size. That is a hilarious idea. I don't think that's correct though. Have I missed any supers? I don't think I missed any supers. I never miss supers. All right. I'm high and drunk, says somebody. All right. I don't know why everybody's getting fucked up and watching this stream, but I'll take it. Sean Easton says, with you, Morge. Tech creators are in a bubble of first adopters. People like me got to figure out how to make things usable for everyone else. Shake my head. Sean Easton flexing again that he knows more about tech than me or anybody else. Thanks, Sean, for staying ahead of the game so that people like me can get your advice for streams like this. 50 to 60 minutes? Fuck. I knew I shouldn't have. God damn it. God damn it. All right. Sean, I should have ordered earlier. Sean Emmanuel says, hey man, really enjoyed that Randy collab. So did I. So question, have you given I think the correct word is have you given Elden Ring a try, and how do you feel about it? I've not given Elden Ring a try, but I really do want to. I really, really, really do want to. I'm not a big gamer, especially single player games, but Elden Ring has me really, really wanting to try it. So I've been saying this for God knows how long, but I need a new laptop/PC. And whatever I get is probably going to be like a big purchase. So I think once I get that, I'll definitely get Elden Ring. I definitely want to give it a try. Mike Holt says, Luffy never relayed Ace's message, lol. Ace's message. Oh, to the Whitebeard pirates? Yeah, Luffy didn't. Luffy doesn't remember shit like that. Andrew says, OP equals weed friendly. Brooke smokes a blunt in a movie. Brooke does not. Not that I watched the movie, so I don't actually know. Oh, Randy, are you high right now? Randy high right now? Are you part of the 40%? Captain Face says, your theories be blowing my mind when I'm high as fuck. Okay, it's starting to come together. It makes sense. I see the correlation. Free Warrior 4 says, Yo, Morge, hope you like the chapter. I want to know, do you watch Uderon? I don't, because his videos are in Japanese, right? And if you do, what do you think of his recent Devil Fruit theory? It's kind of wild, you tell us. I've not watched the oil fruit theory. I'm not super on board with that. But I've not seen it either. One sec. Maddie says, where did you order food from? I ordered food from Sweet Green. Keenan B says, I never miss supers. March 2022. Well, I just read that, didn't I? How do you like that, huh? I think that proves my point. Hackbox says, Morge, why are you ordering when you have HelloFresh? Eyes. I didn't get time today, because look at me right now, right? I finish work. I stream. There's no time for me to do anything else. Didn't even have time to order on time. Oh, man. HAK says Randy is high in a lot of his videos. If you know, you know. No, there's no. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Hoku says Uteron has subtitles. Yeah, but I don't like watching anything with subtitles, you know? I don't like watching anything with subtitles. Mellow 2 times says 42% if you count me in. I get blitzed enough for 2 people, LMAO. That's not how the math works out, though. That doesn't bump things up like a whole 2%. Freelish says, does Morge have a normal job? No. Besides YouTube, I have a small online business. I say small because it feels weird. It's actually more of a normal online business at this point. But I say small because I'm still in the habit of saying that for like the last 2 years. It's actually gotten tricky because it's at a point where like that's taking up like doing YouTube at the same. It's just tricky because time wise, I have to put in so much time into that now. But I don't want to drop YouTube, but I also don't want to like it's tricky. Let's just say it's tricky right now. The pirate here says, this pains me to say, but you were right earlier in the year. The Knicks are still trash. RJ balling out the. Yeah, look, I don't know what happened to the Knicks, but they were a lie last year. All right, they were just a lie. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes you think things have turned around, but they really haven't. How are you guys liking Elden Ring? Is Elden Ring good? Good? Sorry, I don't want to say it's why I said could. Is Elden Ring good? Randy says, people always think I'm high. I'm really not, though. I think it's because you have a very relaxed demeanor. That gives people the impression. Also, we can see the blunts in the back. All right, I'm gonna do one more question. I'm gonna pick a good question, and leave it at that. Nick G says, if you've never smoked weed, don't give your opinion on it. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, just because. Yeah, like there are people that I know that I think would actually like really, really benefit from trying it. But at the same time, like some things that people do say about weed are correct in that, like, oh, it can really hurt your ambition or productivity or whatever. I definitely experienced that back in like college, where I swear I like threw away a whole year or two pretty much just because I smoked too much for a period of time, you know, and that was really, really, really not good for a person like me. Elden Ring is good. Everyone likes Elden Ring. All right, Elden Ring is good. That's good to know. Nick G says Elden Ring looks like just another Dark Souls game, nothing special. Yeah, but Dark Souls are good. I mean, Dark Souls series is good. Lay the Elden Ring hype to rest. Okay. I still want to try Elden Ring. I'm not like a big video gamer. The fact that I say video gamer, not gamer, should tell you something. But like, you know, Brother Keith, thanks. I appreciate it. All right. One more good question. Let's see. One more good question. Nick G says weed doesn't make you lazy. It's only if you want to be lazy. Shake my head. Yeah, I mean, I do know somebody who like actually gets more work done when they're high. So I guess you kind of it's best if you know yourself. But I'll just say that like yeah, I'll just say that it I know what I want to do when I'm high, and it's not be productive. So I'll say that. I've ruined the topic completely. Now we're not. I'm looking for a One Piece related question. Phantom Greyfire says hashtag bring back Morgecast. Oh god, the Morgecast. What happened to Koopy Coop? Koopy Coop ran away. MFS bitch says, do you ever play D&D? No, but I play Gloomhaven actually right now with a group of friends when we like online virtually basically. But it's fucking hard to get everybody together at the same time. So we try and do like, you know, once every few weeks or so if we can manage. But it's hard to get everybody together at the same time. Phantom Greatfire says, Morge, I'm once again asking you for your chat box to be bigger. Are you kidding? Do you see the size of my chat box? It is way bigger than any chat box you've ever had. The size of this chat box is ridiculous. Look at it, Phantom Greatfire. You can barely see me. I'm completely covered by this chat box. In fact, I'm a little jealous of the size of this chat box. I feel like I should be a lot bigger and the chat box should be a lot smaller. More of me, less of the chat, am I right? Vanilla Thunder says, what's your online business? Without sharing too many details, it is basically fixing operation. It's funny to say, but it's fixing operations of other online businesses. So most businesses have like really, really inefficient processes for like everything, like their fulfillment, their onboarding, back-end stuff, etc. So it actually started as we started a few things, like we started as a digital marketing agency a while back, partly because one of the 3 partners that I work with was always really, really good at video. I had a strong interest in video. We could do that for video ads, promotional stuff for people. That branched into digital marketing stuff because you can do a lot with Facebook ads and things like that. And then we started hating doing marketing, especially once COVID hit, because that was when we were really trying to grow. And then COVID hit, and then nobody wanted marketing at that point because like lots of businesses were trying to save their own skin. And then slowly things worked out, and we shifted to basically like helping business operations, and that's a lot better. It works a lot better for us. Lee P says Usopp is the sun god because he's Luffy's best friend and Nika was Joy Boys. He's Luffy's best friend and Nika was Joy Boys. That's an interesting theory. That's an interesting idea. Randy says I have to move the overlay over and give it a proper background. I'll see what can be done. I'll see what can be done. That seems like a tall order. I don't mess with this overlay. This overlay has been the same ever since my editor / producer or whatever, he set it up for the Reverie, right? And ever since then, I've never changed the overlay because don't really know particularly how. So I kind of let it sit like this. All right, one more question. One more question. One more question. Big Mom and Bonnie are somewhat related. Some might even argue they're the same. What are your thoughts? I don't know. Just because I kind of lost it. Like, ever since the Katakuri oven Daifuku thing was disproven, that they were Kaido's children, and I think a lot of people, myself included, were really, really convinced for a good period of time that, like, oh yeah, these are Kaido's children. Like, Kaido and Big Mom, they had Katakuri oven and Daifuku. You have no idea how strong that theory was in the community for a while. Ever since that was disproven, I've kind of backed off on the idea that, like, this person might be Big Mom's, like, I don't know, like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, you know what, maybe we just know Big Mom's kids, and Big Mom's kids are what we see is what we get. Trevor Roberts says, I know it is unlikely, but how would you feel if it turned out Big Mom was actually killed? A pretty big twist. I think that would be terrible if she just died from that, like, especially when she goes out saying, I'm not going to die from that. Randy says, Photoshop, bro. All right, I'll look into it. I'll see how it. see if there can be some things workshopped here. We'll see what could be done. Gary Tensley says, do you think Rox is alive? We might end it on this question. No, I think Rox is not alive. Babtron says, Usopp posed like Sun God in one scene, actually. I mean, was it like the dancing Skypiea scene? Maybe. All right, guys. I think that is enough. Enough for this. I think that we can call it a day here.